Malika, what we do know right now is that we can confirm shortly after 7:30, 7:40 thereabout, we were actually in the town office at I&M, and we had some loud explosion which we could not exactly tell what it was. In fact, we thought that cars had actually collided along Kenyatta Avenue. Therefore, we ignored. Then a few minutes, of course, information has come in that there was an explosion at the Tom Mboya Junction. And yes, just to confirm, this is the exact spot where that particular incident has occurred. And the information that you have is that an individual who was moving, he had been hired to move his trolley and carry goods for somebody. I think he is in a red, he's still in a red overall over there, and he is the one who was actually pushing the trolley when the person that had asked him to help him move the goods, apparently we gather that he asked him that he has forgotten his ID at the M-Pesa kiosk where he had done some withdrawal, and therefore he told him to wait. Within a split second, whatever was in the goods that he was moving on the trolley then exploded, and that is what happened. Now, so far, detectives have they've surrounded that particular person who had been hired to push the trolley, and as you can see, they are trying to get his details. Security officers have already swung in action. Part of Tom Mboya has been cordoned, of course, as they now start looking at the possibility of trying to trace or to know exactly who was with those particular goods that he got hold of this particular individual to help them move. So a section of Tom Mboya has been cordoned off. Of course, on the right, it's where the camera is facing is where the National Archives is. That one has already been demarcated with the tape as a scene of crime. And then on the left, as you head towards the fire station, a few meters from Odeon, they've also blocked that particular junction. So that is exactly what happened, and this is among the first vehicles, the first officers that responded, that have come to seal the scene of crime. Of course, as we've mentioned, it happened exactly outside the Odeon Cinema Hall under the Smoothers, actually at the Smoothers restaurant, and that is what we can be able to explain so far. Now, something interesting, Malika, even as this place is cordoned off, on my right there is a club, and they are going on with music, loud music, as if nothing has happened. I think the revelers in there, they are going on with their partying, oblivious of the fact that something tragic could have happened here, and therefore some people here are still going around with their businesses, and they cannot exactly figure out what is happening. And of course, Tom Mboya, you know, that is an area that is usually crowded, and therefore security officers here are having it a bit rough to try and push away the crowds that are milling around, of course, typical of Kenyans, just to know what exactly happened. Just to recap again, Malika, what have the information that we've gathered so far is that there was an explosion few minutes after 7:30, and what happened was an individual who was moving the goods over there on that particular trolley, and somebody asked him to stop, that he has forgotten his ID. Now that particular person, of course, took off, but lucky enough, what we do gather is that that particular device might not have been. We are being asked to move out of the crime scene. As usual, as we said, we'll have to we are being helped to move out of the crime scene, just to give the security officers some good time or enough space to help them now cordon off this particular place. So the security officers now doing what they have to do to secure the scene. And that particular individual that we managed to get on camera earlier, he has some, we understand 2 people were injured. The individual who was pushing the trolley, but they could not let him go because, of course, he'll form part of the investigations that security detectives were doing, and that is exactly what we will be able to talk about. My colleague Hussein Mohammed, I can see him coming from the other side. Of course, you know, he's from the investigations desk, so with the moment he gets more details, I'll be able to engage him and exactly know what has he been able to collect so far in terms of what exactly has happened. But as I've said, businesses, of course, have now starting closing. But as I've said, there's a club over there, and it's business as usual. Some of them, actually, they are not so sure. They are not aware of what is happening. And more vehicles, of course, are now driving in. You will understand now the urgency to come and back the security officers that are here. So that is the situation that we are having here right now. My colleagues are coming in one by one. Once they, of course, from the crime desk, and once they get a hold of some of the information that we can be able to get, then we'll be able to exactly relay. Malika?
Yes, Duncan Haimba, thank you for those details. Now, of course, I want you to clarify once again for us exactly which spot you are at, where exactly this particular explosion took place so that we know the particular spot. I do know, as you said, this is the junction of Tom Mboya Street. Can you just give us the exact location of that? And have you been able to speak to anyone who was around the area when that particular explosion did take place?
We've not been able to talk to any person because many that were here, of course, you've seen the security officers or the security personnel are repulsing them or pushing them away from this particular spot. But we were hoping that we'll be able to, if possible, to talk to that individual, but you'll understand now he will form, of course, a very part of the integral critical persons of interest that the security officers will be engaging, and therefore that individual, when we went live, of course, he was still there. We understand he has some injury, but the police were still holding on to him to get more details, because for him, he just said, basically, he had just landed an evening job as usual to move goods, or he had been given an assignment or some duty to move them from to one place to the other. My colleagues Brian Obuya and Hussein Mohammed are here. I don't know, Hussein, maybe what have you been able to gather so far in as much as this incident is concerned?
Well, in terms of casualty, what we have gathered is that unconfirmed reports are reaching us that one person has died. We are still scanning the area. The police have already barricaded everywhere, so we are trying to see if we can get more information. But what we can report so far is that one person has passed on, and we are still trying to gather more information and see how we can patch the story together.
Well, of course, Malika, again, Hussein Mohammed trying to tell us one or two things. Brian Obuya is also here. Brian, if I could ask, what have you been able to gather so far as that incident is concerned? Of course, Hussein Mohammed saying unconfirmed reports that one person might have succumbed. What have you been able to get?
Oh, well, according to the information on the ground is that there could have been intentions to ensure that this particular device got into one of the vehicles around. And we also get to understand that the bomb squad has also arrived to just analyze, to get a feel of what this device was, what could have been the impact of it, and probably try to hand that report to another team, which is going to take a look at tracing back to who are the masterminds, or what could have been the bigger intention behind it. And what we see right now is just the team of GSU trying to control the crowds, because you saw the hundreds of people milling around the area, and that could mean fatalities if anything else could happen just in the course of it all. Yes, Kamba.
Well, thank you, Malik. Again, that is another confirmation or information that we are getting. It will take time, of course, before we get processed the information or before we get the actual. As you can see, the officers are trying to the bomb squad. They are trying to get information. They are trying to pick shrapnels or whatever they could have gotten from whatever came out from it. So. These are the, of course, bomb squad that has arrived on the ground. The anti-terror police squad is also here. Of course, the regular police officers that were here, the GSU officers are also here, and therefore that is the situation that we are having. Malika, you had asked me just to clarify exactly where are we. We are at the junction of Latema Road and Tom Mboya. There is, it's a famous for the Odeon Cinema Hall. So that is exactly where we are. The restaurant, Smoothers Restaurant, has closed, and we can be able to see from the glasses here some of the workers and maybe the persons who are in there having their dinner. They are still there. Of course, you can see far where the security officers are. They are trying to, whatever was being moved on that trolley is still there. And the officers now have zeroed in on that particular area. That is what is happening now. And of course, as my colleagues have said, more reinforcement is coming in terms of the security personnel that are coming to secure this particular scene. Now, of course, on a casual talk with one or two persons here, they are saying that perhaps it was it was just lucky for the fact that that particular explosion did the way it happened, it did not explode at an angle that could be at 45. Usually that is how the impact can be felt, and therefore they are saying that the fact that it was covered and the way it got off the trolley could have saved the situation, because the impact has not been that particular way it was expected. And of course there's a stretcher that is being moved here. We are not so sure whether we have some emergency there. We'll just try to move that particular direction to know where exactly is that stretcher headed, and if there are any persons that maybe they were injured as they were moving. So there is a stretcher that has come over, and I can see, of course, that is where that individual was, and the individual who was pushing the trolley, we can be able to sight him right now. Of course, he had just been whisked maybe far away from the glare of cameras. And I think he's the person that wants to be wheeled to an ambulance, maybe to be rushed to hospital. So that one exactly. So we will have to move far, just to move far a bit. We will have to move far a bit, and therefore as we move, of course, as I've said, security personnel here moving in very fast. So that is exactly what we are trying to. That is what we are trying to. Sir, we are very sorry. We'll have to move. Sorry, sir. We do understand. So my colleagues, if they can just move in a bit, you can see that one is now those are the paramilitary, of course, doing what they do best, talking very little and lots of action, and therefore we are being moved to one particular corner just to ensure that we give them space. Malika, if you can hear me.
Yes, Haim, but the details you're providing are, of course, diversifying the knowledge that we have regarding this incident. Now, what, of course, we're showing you there is the site of an explosion that took place slightly after 7:30 this evening. It is at the junction of Latema Tom Mboya Street, and specifically where the Smoothers restaurant is. We are being told that security personnel are advising everybody to avoid that area. Once again, security personnel handling that situation are advising the public to avoid that particular area of, as of now, of course, where the explosion has taken place. That is, once again, to clarify, at the junction of Latema Tom Mboya Street, and it is right near the Smoothers restaurant, as our Duncan Haemba has once again highlighted and pointed out. It was also joined by KTN's Brian Obuya and Hussein Mohammed, who are telling us about the details we know so far. And we do know that one person has been injured, as well as the person who was ferrying the goods, the contents that did explode. He is somebody who ferries goods via a trolley. He was headed for the Kenya cinema, it is believed, and the man accompanying him left him and told him he needs to actually take his ID back from a nearby stall, and shortly after that the contents of the luggage that he was ferrying exploded. And so far that's what we know. We do know the bomb squad is on the scene. There are security details and personnel currently on that particular side as well. They're cordoning off the area, as you saw if you joined us just a few minutes back. They are of course pushing back anyone who is close to the site. There we are. We're seeing a person on a stretcher who is being taken away from there. If we can cross back to you, Duncan Haemba, what do we know so far about where this gentleman who is on the stretcher is being taken? Any details so far on that particular side?
Well, we not where the person
all right.
To some corner, so we are just trying to follow and see, and I think they must be rushing him to hospital, of course. And yes, there's an ambulance here. That is where he's being wheeled. I think is one among the persons who got injured. So don't get close-ups. Yes, thank you. Well, Malika, that is the gentleman who was pushing the trolley. That the security personnel, they are still holding on to him, and I think they might be contemplating if some first aid can be administered on him right now at this particular place. And then that other individual, we are not so sure where he was, or rather when that particular incident happened, but of course he's now being actually put into a Red Cross ambulance to be rushed to hospital for treatment. Yes, once again we have to take our position because we'll have to Hussein, I don't know whether you've been able to get any more details, maybe.